Okay, we look at chapter 14 of Mounce today. This is a good chapter for three reasons. Number one, it's brief. You'll appreciate that. And second thing is you already know the forms are the only paradigm that you need to learn. We'll talk about the distinction and the very small thing that you need to learn. And then, of course, it's good because it's the end of noun study. If you have probably noticed that noun study is pretty complex. We're going to get in verbs. Verbs can be complex as well, but they're a lot more fun because they deal with the action of the language, and they're very important. So I think you'll enjoy verbs more than nouns. That's actually both are necessary and they fit together well. In chapter 14, be sure that you read the exegetical insight. This is a good exegetical insight that really uses the language a little bit, shows you something about relative pronouns, which we're going to be studying here. Then the English grammar in pages 114 and 15 is extremely important because it helps you to understand the Greek grammar. So be sure to pay close attention to that. In the paradigm for the relative pronoun, note the distinction here in the forms. They are essentially the forms of the first and second declension nouns, but they do include the rough breathing mark and the accent. And so you will note those things because they are, that's the way you spell the word, so that's what makes the word correct. So when you write those words, you need to make sure that you're doing that. You also need to note very carefully in section 14.9 and 14.10 the relationship of the relative pronoun to its antecedent. You know, an antecedent is the noun for which the pronoun stands, and so there is something different here than you see in adjectives. So because the number and gender of the relative pronoun will be the same as the antecedent, but the case will not necessarily be. It'll be determined by the use of the relative pronoun in the relative clause, not simply the use of it in the whole sentence, but specifically the use of it in the relative clause. So be sure to note that. Now, once you've done that, then you have a note on some notes on translation procedure in 14.12 and 14.13. I would encourage you to note that, and then you have your summary, which is remember your review, and what you want to do there is to use that, as we've talked about before, to go back, make sure that you understand all of these things. And then you have the vocabulary. You want to be sure to learn your vocabulary. I want to point out one thing in the vocabulary before we pronounce it, and that is the difference in two little words. One is hati, which would be spelled omicron tau iota, and that's the word that means that, or a few other things. And then you have a new one here that is hate with an epsilon, omicron tau epsilon, and it means when. So be sure to note that so you don't get those two confused. Now you've learned a little over 66% of the word count in the Greek New Testament, so you should feel pretty good about that. But here's what I want us to do is go through and pronounce the vocabulary here, if we might, and give you an opportunity to pronounce it as well. Reminding you that, as Mounce points out, pronunciation is important because if you're consistent in your pronunciation, it will help you in the learning process. Please keep reviewing your vocabulary. Please keep using your flashcards, whatever method you're using, to keep reviewing it as often as you can so that you can learn this very well. All right, let's pronounce the vocabulary. We're on page 117, beginning with aletheia, and then arene, enopion, hepta, thranos, Jerusalem, kata, kephale, hadas, has, he, ha. That's the relative pronoun that we're dealing with in this chapter. Hate, hutos, ploion, herema. Notice the rough breathing mark here, and notice that this is also a word meaning word. It refers to the spoken word, a saying, or something like that. Te is a particle that you'll see occasionally, and then care and keros, that's the genitive form, means hand, arm, or finger, and then suke is the other vocabulary word. I want to call your attention to the advanced information that he talks about. It has specifically to do with a case. Sometimes the case is a little different in a word as because of its relationship to uh, another noun. So just read what he says there. Read what he says also in the shaded area as giving you some words on the books of the Bible. That'll be interesting too. All right. Now, so if you will, just recognize that you're pretty deep into Greek right now, and I mentioned this in the PowerPoint that you'll see, so you can review it there. But just want to remind you that I know that most students are kind of overwhelmed at this point. This is the time when students start to drop out because they just get to the point where they feel like they can't make it. Well, let me assure you, you can. I made it, and many other people have made it, and you can make it as well. I want to remind you that this is a required course. You're going to have to take it. If you go back and look at your situation, I think you'll probably discover that you're learning more than you think you are. And I would say there is a time coming on down the road when you're going to see the light come on, and you're going to understand a lot more about what you're doing. Sometimes it just seems jumbled up right now. But I'd say keep pushing because it is worthwhile. It means a lot in your ministry, and you are going to need this. So keep at it. Call me if you need me, and send me an email. Let me know if you get to that point before you decide to drop out. Particularly, I really would encourage you to give me a call and let me talk through it with you. I won't, I'll try to listen to what you're saying, but I think it is important for you to hang in, and I hope you'll do that. All right, hope you have a good week, and I will see you in the next video.